Hey everybody, it's Charlie from Daily Motor, and today we're going to go out for a little spring ride on our 2014 Honda CTX700. Now this is technically the ND model, which means it is naked. There's less fairing than the non-naked version would be, the fully faired version, and D stands for dual clutch. So this is actually an automatic motorcycle. Honda's the only brand that puts dual clutch automatic transmissions in their motorcycles. And while some of you diehard motorcycle fans might say sacrilege, it's actually a really enjoyable way to ride. And in a lot of senses, I prefer it to my manual Suzuki V-Strom 650. So we're gonna go for a little ride, kind of talk about why we picked up this bike, what it's been like to own it so far, and kind of the unique situation in which it fell into our hands. So you might be thinking, this bike is incredibly clean for a 2014 model, and that's because it has just over 500 miles on it. Yes, that's right, 500. When I saw this bike on Facebook Marketplace, it only had something like 280 or 300 miles on it, even being a 2014, and that was in 2020. And believe it or not, we actually picked this bike up for $3,400. This bike would have been more than twice that new off the showroom floor back in 2014. But the previous owner got it from a family member who never really rode it, and he never really rode it. He was kind of getting into bikes and wanted something a little bit more fancy and exciting, and he was willing to get rid of this for a good price. Now, I had ridden the manual version of the CTX700 and actually really liked it. It's definitely not the fastest bike. It only makes 51 horsepower and 46 pound-feet of torque. Now, that torque figure is actually pretty darn good. 51 is fairly low for mid-level motorcycles. This is kind of an entry-level bike, but the torque that it has and how down low it makes it and how nice and smooth and guttural the engine is, mixed with how easy it is to ride, really made it appealing. Now, the reason I didn't end up going with the manual bike before I bought my V-Strom were a few different things, but primarily the manual bikes don't come with ABS, and it does really frustrate me how Honda only offers ABS with their DCT models when DCT is available, at least here in the United States. And then the other thing is, you see these foot pegs, it's kind of a cruiser-ish position, so your legs actually sit out in front of you. I'm not a huge fan of that riding style. I prefer the legs, or feet rather, being underneath me. Well, you can see, as you sit on the bike, I'm 5'10", and I have a ton of bend in my leg. Feet are very firmly flat on the ground. And that brings up another appeal of this bike. This is actually going to be Alyssa's bike. For those of you who watch the channel, you know Alyssa here at Daily Motor is not very tall. She's about 5'2". So she needed a bike, especially for her first bike, that was a very low ride height. And this is one of the models that provides that. So she's got low ride height, she's got ABS, which is a must for us, and she's got an automatic, so she doesn't have to worry about shifting. It's kind of the perfect beginner bike. Now, in terms of other CTX goodies, you have a little storage compartment. It's not nearly as large as that in the Honda NC700 and 750, but pop this open, there's enough room in there for my wallet. I've actually got a GoPro battery pack in there. I could probably fit my cell phone in there if I wanted to as well. You've got the gas cap. This bike gets remarkably good fuel economy. I think it's rated at something like 68 miles per gallon, and over 60 is definitely attainable even with a pretty spirited right hand. These right here are actually mounts for a universal windshield that we usually run on the bike, but I realized when I came out today that the GoPro would be looking right through the smoked windshield being on my chin, so I actually took that off. I think it looks cooler without the windshield, but it's definitely windier. In terms of controls, with this being an automatic, right here you've got neutral and drive, and then if you press drive again, that goes into sport mode, more of a sporty transmission situation. It's very similar to cars and the way their drive modes are. If you're in S, it holds gears longer, it downshifts quicker, especially if you get hard on the brakes, and if you're in D, it pretty much just goes right up to top gear as soon as possible. Over here, you've got a parking brake you can pull, and then manual shift modes, you've got up gear with your index finger and down a gear with your thumb. So we'll play around with that while we're on the bike. Let's go ahead and fire it up. You can hear how butter smooth and quiet this engine is. Mostly injector noise. You do get a bit of an exhaust rumble. I actually, when I first drove the CTX, I really liked that. They managed, oh, I got a little bit of a scrape here. I don't know how that happened. Huh. The exhaust rumble really sounds neat for this bike. Look, take a listen. The way they managed to make a parallel twin actually sound kind of fun is neat. But other than that, very quiet bike, settles right down. Not a very high red line, as we'll see when we get riding as well. And that was one of the tougher things with the manual version of this bike, because you were constantly hitting the rev limiter. But in the automatic's not a big deal. It just shifts for you. To go into gear, just press D. You hear that really satisfying clunk. That's one of the cool things about this automatic bike, is you still get a lot of the sensation of a manual. So here's neutral, and then drive. Away we go. I'm actually kind of running down the gas level, getting out the old seasoned gas in here, and I can see we're down to 1 bar, so we'll probably have to throw a little gas in here. Hopefully the audio is going to be okay. It is quite windy. You're really probably not going to be able to hear much of the bike once I get rolling. Mixture of the wind and the fact this thing is just so quiet. I'll be able to hear it when I get on the throttle. So right now we're just in D drive mode. I get up on the throttle easy. Already at 30 miles per hour, we're into 5th gear. And then once we get up about 40, it's gonna go 6, and we're in top gear right now. Just cruising along. Even when you give it a good amount of throttle, probably 50% or so, it stays in top gear when you're in drive. But then if I hit drive mode again, S, it drops it down into 5th gear initially, and if I get about 50% throttle, it goes down into 4th gear. If I go full throttle, it's still in 4th gear, but it'll hold revs all the way out to rev line. Into this roundabout, you can hear it, see it downshifting. 2nd gear at about 23 miles per hour. Take it around. It's full throttle. This bike definitely has to work when you're getting up toward highway speeds, but around town, it's just such an awesome little bopper. Not having to worry about shifting really allows you to just focus on the traffic situation, the riding situation. It makes for a much different experience. It will go up into 6th gear if you're in S mode, especially if you're just cruising around, but as soon as you give it a good amount of throttle, it'll drop down 5th, 4th. And you can manually shift even when you're in S or D. So right now I'm in 4th gear. Say I knew I was coming up and I wanted it to downshift. Just press that with my thumb. I'm into 3rd and go all the way into 2nd. It won't let me go into any gear that would over rev the bike. But if I never want it to shift for me, right here with my right index finger, there's an AT-MT button. I just press that, and then the little S icon goes away on the dash, and now it's all manual. So I put it into 3rd gear here, and it will not leave 3rd gear until, actually, I don't know if it'll hold revs even if I hit the rev limiter. I think it will. Let's see. Let's come around this corner. Oh, not the smoothest bike. Not the most advanced suspension, that's for sure. Here's second gear. Oh, it hits the rev limiter and just stays there. So in manual mode, it's truly manual. Even with that manual mode though, I find myself pretty much just leaving the bike in S mode for most riding. If I'm just riding around easily, I even use D to save a little fuel, but S mode does a pretty good job at emulating how you'd want to shift if you were manually shifting the bike. And very usable amount of torque, like I was saying, at 46 foot-pounds. Makes it pretty low in the rev range. The seat comfort on this bike is really good. I always appreciate that. It's very wide, very soft, allows for a lot of comfort. I find myself having to hold my back up a little bit more than on the V-Strom, but I will say my handlebars are raised a little on the V-Strom. It's a little more of a upright adventure style. I could probably try raising the handlebars a bit, so I could just pop these off and rotate it up a little, and maybe I'd naturally sit up a little bit higher. Getting away from stoplights is just so satisfying on this. Right now I'm watching the traffic. I'm not worrying about my revs or my speed. I'm noticing the fact that guy's running on a donut. Running without a windshield, once you get above 50 miles per hour, it definitely blows you around. I don't see how those naked bike guys do it. I much prefer to have a wind blocker, even if it doesn't look quite as neat. You almost have to shift your weight around to lean yourself into the wind at higher speeds so your body kind of balances. One interesting situation I have with this motorcycle is a lot of schools of thought will tell you that 5 years is the maximum amount that you should run a set of tires on your bike. Even if there's plenty of tread left, once you get above 5 years, the rubber starts to wear out and the bike tires are not as effective. Now, obviously, there's a lot of variation with that. It all depends on how the bike was stored and cared for, the tire's original condition, how they've been maintained and ridden, everything like that. If you actually consult the tire manufacturers, many of them say once you get above 6 or 7 years, just inspect them regularly, annually by a professional tire technician, and if there's no cracks or any bad visual situations, you should be good for a few more years. And that's kind of where I'm at with this one. I mean, the bike's only got 542 miles on it. The tires are all in visually very good shape. But if it turns out that Alyssa does plan on riding this bike frequently, then I will probably go ahead and purchase a new set of tires. In the grand scheme of things, a few $100s for better braking and better cornering ability. It's just a safety issue at that point. I'm gonna hit a few more corners here, a little bit. One of my more preferred sections of road around here. One that's actually kind of fun. What you have to do here in Michigan for motorcycle roads is just seek out a few corners that you know are going to be good. Manually shifted that one down to the third just so I can kind of carry that sensation and throttle response through here. Actually, I'm going to hit the manual shift button, just keep it in third gear in this section of corners. Yeah, there we go, full throttle, back into automatic mode, let it shift up into fourth. So, coming into not a particularly large city by any means, Dundee, Michigan, but it'll still give us an opportunity to kind of showcase the city characteristics of this bike. Go back down into drive, and in 6th gear, cruise right on into the 25 mile per hour speed limit. sit up a little bit again after leaning into that wind. Sometimes it does feel like the bike's lugging a little bit in drive. So there are certain, I mean, if I'm gonna be riding in busy traffic in town, I'll shift into S, just so I know I have that power on tap. But at the end of the day, I can take solace knowing that the Honda engineers would have programmed the bike as it needed to. So even right now, I mean, it feels kind of luggy. We're doing 4th gear, 23, 24 miles per hour, and well below 2,000 RPM. There we go, it shifted at 21 miles per hour on the throttle. If I were on a manual bike, I certainly would have downshifted before then, but hey, bike knows what's best. We're gonna just come to a stop, nice and easy. Bike shifts itself down into first, and hear that nice mechanical thunk. Then when you're just sitting, even in drive, it just sits there, and then lets out the clutch as you move forward. Come to a stop, check, get on the gas, get right away. So right now I'll shift down into S mode. The bike just sounds a little bit more proper, feels more responsive. It's nice being able to work your way through town and not worry about pulling in the clutch, making sure you're in the right gear. If all of a sudden I needed to get on it real hard, you know that's gonna take me away properly. I love that little rumble from the exhaust. It's just a little parallel twin, but did a good job with the exhaust from the factory. What a beautiful day to park out by the river. Put it into neutral, off it goes. So, our Honda CTX700. You probably won't see quite as much from this bike as my V-Strom, but we are hoping to get some other bikes from Honda. Now this one's our personal one, but we're hoping to get some loaner bikes and test those out and do some experiences and reviews and stuff. But if there's anything you'd like to know about the CTX 700, hit me up in the comments. I'm happy to answer any questions I can. Or if there's certain videos you want to see, I'm happy to go out and shoot them. Thank you all so much for watching. If you want to see more on bikes, I'll throw the links to our bike playlist in the description. And we'll see you on the next one. I'm Charlie from Daily Motor, and as always, drive on.